sure you're in it. Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I want to say it's Monday because that's what it feels like. Welcome to the TED Show. We're here with my buddy Russ Scala. Do I want to tag Russ Scala in it? I've already tagged Russ Scala. Let us know you can hear us or see us. It's the TED Show. Welcome back. Hope you guys had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Let me know that you can hear me or see me. Hey, Candy Gomez. Candy, let me know you can hear us or see us. David Green's on. This is personalized medicine, what your doctors won't tell you, among other things. So welcome, buddy.
How's everything going?
It's good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Folks, we've got some really cool topics for you. Hopefully after this talk today, you could apply it right to your lifestyle and get out of the railroad tracks and maybe lose a little weight, maybe think a little clearer, so we'll see what happens.
So you can see and hear. Thanks, Alan. Hey, Allie. Hey, guys. So we're going to talk about cortisol. We're going to talk about belly fat, and my favorite topic, why marathon runners are a little chubby. Because, I'm not really the big exercise guy, although I probably should be. My doctor this morning said, how much do you exercise? I go, well, I walk. I didn't tell her I walk from the car to the table and back to the car. But that counts for something. I'm really excited to talk about this because I think it's on everybody's mind. It's the topic. There's so much in the news that talks about cortisol, talks about belly fat. But you also were a marathon runner, so the whole chubby scenario. So let's talk about cortisol first.
Okay, folks, remember what we're going to go over today is the flight or flight response. And when
I would die because there's no flight here. It's going to have to be the fight for me.
So you secrete cortisol when you're under stress, physical, mental, or emotional stress. So, and also, folks, on the Russ Scala YouTube channel, I dive into these topics a little deeper. So you could, if you want to learn a little more, go to the Russ Scala YouTube channel. But for today, we're going to talk about how elevated cortisol stops fat burning, which a lot of people don't realize. In our last shows, we talked about how elevated estrogen dominance in women shut off fat burning. Well, guess what? If you're under stress, if you had an emotional day, if you elevate your cortisol levels through the week, because we've been doing cortisol saliva testing on men and women probably for the last 15 years. So when cortisol is elevated, believe it or not, you don't burn body fat. And also, when cortisol is elevated, because you guys know I work with the outliers, the war veterans, the executives, the people in high stress occupations, when cortisol is elevated and that stress response is up, it damages your short-term memory because cortisol hits your hippocampus and slows down memory. Okay, it slows down how your prefrontal cortex makes decisions. The decision-making process is slowed down when you're under stress, which, I've done a lot of studying on why police officers chase a suspect and they, all 5-10 officers end up, shooting their guns in very high stress situations. What we're learning now, folks, is if your cortisol levels are elevated over time, it shuts down parts of the prefrontal cortex in your decision-making process. But we're going to focus on body fat today because I think that's
I
think
easier. So cortisol, though, you gave a little description. The body makes that during high stress times.
Exactly. When you're under stress, folks, like for instance, if you jump out of the way of a car, or if you're going through a divorce, or you just lost your job, your cortisol levels are going to be elevated. That's natural. Cortisol is a natural anti-inflammatory. It protects us. Cortisol also elevates our immune system. So cortisol is very important, but when it's overproduced, okay, like we do a 4-sample saliva cortisol test on people. When cortisol is overproduced, it damages your brain, damages your heart, and stores body fat and elevate insulin levels. And a lot of studies show us that when cortisol is elevated, it puts fat right in the abdominal area, which is for the flight or flight response, or looking what the evolutionary biologists say. They say that is a protection mechanism for us.
Oh, so that's what happens. So there must be cortisol in this mug that I drink every day, apparently. That's where the belly fat comes from. Honest to God. So that's what's happening. Hey, Maxine. That's what's happening. But I don't think people realize it. I think they think, for some reason, because of all these commercials and these fads that are going on, people think cortisol, I've got to do something with my cortisol I'm supposed to do. Like, what should people do? How do you get rid of that belly fat then if this is a stressor kind of thing?
Well, number one thing, folks, we've been talking about this. Remember, everybody's biochemically unique, and losing body fat is very complex. Okay, it's a little different for all of us. Remember last week when I held the pill bottle in my hand? I said, how many calories are in this prednisone? Well, prednisone puts body fat on people. When you take prednisone for anti-inflammatories, there's no calories in those pills. So think about what's causing us to store body fat. And like I said, insulin stores body fat. If you could keep insulin levels down with intermittent fasting, the ketogenic diet, time-restricted eating, that's a good tool for you to apply. It's a process. Keep a food mood log. But when you're under stress and you're not burning body fat, this is where chronic fatigue comes in. This is where people, women that are under so much stress, like for instance, after they lose a child, a lot of women, because of the stress lower their immune system, end up with breast cancer. So I've been obviously in medicine 40 years. I've seen it all and I'm still learning. But testing cortisol levels and helping people understand how stress shuts off fat burning is very important. For instance, I have a lot of executives, a lot of business owners that are on my program. While they're in business or while they're going through a tough time like a divorce, if they came to me and said, I want to train for a marathon, I go, no, now's not the time.
I'm not one of those people.
No, it's well, I'm just giving an example. We have to understand where people are in their life to help them. I'm dropped into the second act of a third act play a lot of times, so when somebody lays out what they want to do, I got to make sure that it's realistic. And we got to get baseline blood work. We got to do saliva, cortisol testing. We got to look at people's hormonal levels. Because another thing that happens, and I've seen this at war vets and EMS workers, women attorneys that I've worked with that are getting ready to go through a case, when you're elevating cortisol, it suppresses all your hormonal levels. And when that happens, it ends up opening you for all kinds of diseases. So elevated cortisol suppresses all your hormonal levels. In women, for instance, elevated cortisol suppresses progesterone, which women need to think properly, to burn body fat. So, taking the medication, I know it's a bridge. Sometimes we need it, but understanding your physiology and getting baseline blood work and saliva cortisol testing is always really a good plan to have.
So so let's say you do this, it's a saliva test.
Yeah, it's a saliva test.
And then you get the results back and it's, oh my God, like me probably at some point. I need help. What is there? Because people were mentioning things and it's going by so fast. We have a lot of people watching this morning. Ash, and guys, I'm sorry, but I think it's a form of yoga or relaxation. Ashwagandha. Posing. People were saying, does that help with reducing cortisol? They're talking about something that maybe mind, stretching, things like that.
Yeah, I think, folks, here's the deal. Again, remember, I was a paramedic.
You tell I'm an expert in this, right?
Here's another thing. You know what lowers cortisol levels? Simple carbohydrates. Let's take a page out of the book, Potatoes Not Prozac. When somebody with elevated cortisol levels in this situation, because the simple carbohydrates, bread, white, I can't talk, bread, white rice, and pasta, that's tough, elevate serotonin levels and make us feel good. So somebody that's under a lot of stress and they're going through, a divorce, or you got to think about what's going on in their life. And in this situation, when they get an elevation of serotonin from the simple carbohydrates, taking a page out of the book, Potatoes Not Prozac, this will help people get to sleep. And if you don't go to sleep, folks, lack of sleep is a form of torture, okay? We've known that for years. So you've got to get into sleep so you release growth hormone to rehab your body. So
we all know my insomnia things.
Yeah,
John wants to know you guys physicians. I play one on TV, but I am definitely not a physician, John. But Russ does have all his background. You can give them a little bit of that.
Yeah, we have physicians that work for us that is trained in these advanced therapies. A lot of doctors in traditional medicine don't understand the interventional endocrinology I'm talking about right now. And like I said, I traveled to research labs in '96, and I've been doing this ever since. So we're way out on the tip of the spear. A lot of people are going to have to get their head around when you share this information with your doctor. He's going to look at you like a deer in the headlights because they're not trained in this. A lot of my best friends are doctors. I know how much training they have. This is a combination of nutrition and hormonal replacement therapy, understanding how stress or cortisol impacts your neurological architecture.
Tyler, I love you. He just quoted my insomnia thing from this morning. No sleep on the struggle bus. You are right. I wake up and I don't know. Is cortisol related to sleep or lack of sleep?
Well, if you're elevating cortisol, if you're stressed out, listen. A bad phone call before you go to bed could elevate your stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. If that happens, listen, our bodies start getting ready, folks, for sleep at around 2 to 3 o'clock. That's when everybody takes siesta worldwide. Okay, so now they know we don't really need 8 hours of sleep in a row. That actually we have, doing the sleep studies, there's actually 2 different sleep cycles. So all that information is changing. If you're not going in REM sleep, you're kind of under a lot of stress. You got to fix that. And everybody's a little different. Yoga would help. If you hang around energy vampires, people that are draining your energy that you're trying to help all the time.
Hello, we talk about that on the show.
I know a lot of people that are taking care of elderly folks, and they don't have the skill set to take care of their parents, but they don't want to put their parents in assisted living. So these people become caregivers, and their cortisol levels go up because they don't like seeing their family members hurt, and they're like, you know what I mean? So these people need help.
So Ellen, so we've got 2 questions. Ellen wants to know, she asked, do you work alongside their primary? She said she's obese, and my primary never suggested I needed to lose weight. Interesting.
Yeah, what was her name?
Ellen.
Okay, hey Ellen, I've got a lot of this on the Russ Scala YouTube channel. What you got to do is, a lot of times you got to raise your primary to a higher standard. They got to see 30 people a day. Insurance got them handcuffed. You have to empower yourself with the knowledge. Be the CEO of your own health. You got to do a little digging to find out what works. What works. Everybody loses body fat differently. Obesity, could it be low thyroid, low progesterone? Is it the ketogenic diet that's going to help you? I don't know, because a lot of times we're dropped into the second act of a third act play, like I said, and using sweeping generalizations, saying this weight loss program is going to work for everybody. That's why you're going to hear from one of our advisors next week called Vicky. We're actually training Vicky to work one-on-one.
Hi, Vicky.
We're actually training Vicky to work one-on-one with folks, and she'll be here next week, and she'll be somebody that you could reach out to, and she can start to plug in a plan for you.
She's right. And then, John, I'll ask you a question in just a second. He looks at, Ellen says her doctor looks at her labs and states that her numbers are better than his. That's what she just said.
Yeah, the lab work that doctors do, I work for specialty labs, folks, since '96. The laboratories, let me give you an example. I got an 11th hour intervention for this woman that was dying of cancer. She had 2 weeks to live. When they sent me all her lab work, a lot of it was normal.
Wow.
Okay, so the lab work that physicians order right now only spots pathology and disease in late stages, and your body's a self-correcting mechanism. So your lab work, your body's always changing and correcting. Your lab work's going to be normal. We need to look at your intestinal tract, look at your intestinal flora. The gut is the second brain. You are not what you eat, you are what you absorb. Okay, we need to look at your hormonal levels. A woman has 3 estrogens, progesterone, testosterone, thyroid, and cortisol. Boom. We need to look at all that so we can get a picture where you are, a snapshot of where you are right now. Your physician's not trained to do that.
And then John asked, and you've mentioned it before, but this is the first time I've seen John on the show. Hi, John. You work with, or you take a look at adrenal functions.
Right, exactly.
And explain to people what adrenal functions
are. Okay,
John,
you guys could Google this, and I got some 3-minute videos, short attention span, on the Russ Scala YouTube channel. I measured the HPAG axis, the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal gonadal axis. When you're elevating cortisol, we have to treat systems of the body, okay? In order to get people better, we have to treat the system. So the HPAG axis, you could look at that. HPAG axis and stress, Google that and look what comes up. That's what we look at. That's where the elevated cortisol comes in. Now, a lot of doctors, specialists, treat disease in isolation. We need to look at systems. This is a combination of nutrition, hormone replacement therapy, where you are, who you're hanging out with, what is your intestinal flora doing. In order for you to stay healthy, we have to look at that system. We don't want to look at just one, treat something in isolation. We just don't want to give you thyroid if your thyroid is out of balance, because your thyroid is connected to that HPAG axis. Okay, so this is the new paradigm shift, folks, that's coming in personalized medicine. The reasons physicians can't deal with it right now is we have to spend a lot of time with one person, an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And physicians have to see 30 people a day, so they're sort of handcuffed, with this program.
Sure. Like I saw my doctor this morning, and we went over everything, which I loved, but it was boom, 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 and then we came up with a protocol, and it was pretty fast, but I have to give her credit. She's a new physician for me. She made sure that I went through, because I came with a list. I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people go to their doctors unprepared.
No, you see, you empowered yourself. That you came with a list.
Came with a list.
You see, 20 years ago, we used to sit there and think the doctor knew everything. And again,
Correct.
I'm not disrespecting.
No, it's not
the
a
medical.
disrespect.
Listen, you got to come with a list. You got to say, doctors are always treating the lab work. Oh, your lab work are within range, but I feel bad. Your lab work is in range. It's normal lab work, but I feel bad. See,
Right.
you need to understand that everybody, folks, is biochemically unique. We all have different symptoms. Okay, how do we navigate the doctor to take care of us like a team member instead of the guy or woman that knows everything?
Right, and I think, so what I did today, just as an example, I went with my list of things that I wanted to go over. And it can be a long list. Don't think you're a hypochondriac, by the way, or that it's bad if you go to your doctor with a list, because I wanted some things addressed. And I hadn't been to a primary care because of insurance, which we're all dealing with, right? So she actually said to me, I'm so glad you came in prepared. It made this more productive.
I love her.
So remember that a lot of times the doctors, they want to be productive, but if you're all over the place or you don't remember or you forget something and then it dawns on you 2 weeks later and then you have to go back for another appointment, you're not doing yourself any favors if you're not going in prepared to your physician's visit.
No, it's really good, and that's what we all have to think about in order to protect our friends and family members moving forward. So we don't, folks. There's something out there called iatrogenic deaths, and iatrogenic means death caused by the healer. You could Google iatrogenic deaths. The third leading cause of death in the United States is our own medical system with, mistakes in prescriptions and people making mistakes inside of hospitals. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when you go down the road and you're face to face with a doctor, ask the tough questions. This is your health, not his.
That's right.
It's your health.
Right. And if you get a doctor that isn't responsive, like Dr. Hawkins was so responsive today, you really need to check out another doctor. You need to look on your list, and if you're not getting what you want, you have to be. You are the only person who's going to be the advocate for you. So if you're feeling like they have the God complex, again, not giving doctors a hard time. Or if you're not taking the responsibility and making the list and doing the things that you're supposed to do and asking the questions, doing the research and going in as an intelligent, educated patient, then you're not doing what you should be doing. And so some of that onus needs to fall on the patient as well.
Right. Become the CEO of your own health for your family. If your child gets put on an ADHD drug, question that. If you get put on a statin drug that, cholesterol is not the bad guy anymore, and you could ask for lipid subfractionalization testing. Now we've got cardiologists all around the world that are saying, listen, fat is good for the heart. So all that treatments are changing right now, folks. And a lot of doctors can't keep up with all these changes. Us being small and adaptable, I could take information, have a show with Ted, and generate questions in your mind that you could ask your doctor. And this is why I started the Russ Scala YouTube channel. I just wanted to put information into people's hands because it's not getting out there fast enough. Millions of people are going to doctors' offices today and they're not getting accurate information. So taking a page out of Eric Topol's book, the New York Times bestseller, Eric Topol was from the Cleveland Clinic. He wrote The Patient Will See You Now. He basically says this, what Ted and I are trying to do. People are going to form communities, run their own lab work, and heal themselves, all without a physician involved, and using social media in the process, just like we're doing. We're talking about topics right now, folks, you're not going to hear at your doctor's office. So if I made you think about cortisol today and you ask about cortisol saliva testing, that's going to be a win-win down the road.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. John, thanks for sharing that. John, who was asking the questions, his dad was a physician who passed, but he helped correct an adrenal problem that he had, and it changed his life, and he was sharing with that.
Thanks, John. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. John, I was a paramedic, attached to the SWAT team. I was an endurance athlete for 20 years, so you could imagine what I'd done to my adrenal glands. So me being immersed in that sport, thinking I was healthy, it was damaging my body. I didn't realize it. But leaving the paramedics and leaving the SWAT team stuff, by overtraining and exercise and by me elevating cortisol levels, I really caused a lot of damage. But what it allowed me to do was to immerse myself into a group of athletes, and between the athletes, the firefighters, and the cops, I got a wealth of information I would never get in a PhD program.
Agreed. Joe Lee, hey Joe. People on ketogenic, which we've talked about before, may not be losing weight because of high cortisol levels.
Boom, who said that?
Jolie.
Okay,
Joe.
good job, Jolie.
It's true, because ketogenic, because we have paleo, we have keto, we have all of this stuff, and then people are eating, but they may not be losing weight because, again, we're all biochemically unique.
Look
I'm
at
learning.
you.
I'm learning. That should be the hashtag all the time. I need to keep remembering that because we are, and so that's why one thing does not fit everybody. One diet doesn't work for everyone. One pill doesn't work, certainly. One protocol doesn't because we are all biochemically unique.
Yeah,
and I think
well said.
people need to get in touch. That's why you go to your doctor with a list. That's why you work with somebody, work with Russ and his team so that you can get tested and know what's really going on with you specifically because it's different for everybody. It's like that old joke where men and women lose weight differently. Like I can just stop drinking sodas for a week and lose 10 pounds, and Stacy can work out, exercise, eat a piece of lettuce all week and gain 5 pounds. It's all of us are different.
Well, that's
Men
good.
and women are different.
Yeah.
People are different.
Well, fat distribution, folks, fat distribution is genetically determined, hormonally regulated. Fat distribution is genetically determined, hormonally regulated. So upper and lower body fat has a lot to do with progesterone and testosterone and estrogen and insulin and growth hormones. So there's a lot of things at play here. This is why we run lab tests on cortisol levels and understand the 3 different estrogens in a woman's body and why is it that a guy that's on testosterone therapy is not working, and why do some men have elevated estrogen levels? Okay, so again, it could be the alcohol, it could be the environment. There's actually something in your body fat that takes testosterone and converts it to estrogen. Because when you look at it under the microscope, testosterone and estrogen are very similar in chemical makeup. So a guy that's carrying a little bit of extra weight, he may be estrogen dominant, and then he's on testosterone therapy, his doctor's giving it to him, and it's not working. So we need to block the estrogen first in a male,
okay,
and then we elevate his testosterone levels slowly, and look at his thyroid and his adrenal function or his cortisol
Well, that's
levels.
what was weird with mine. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which you guys can Google, and that's a thyroid autoimmune kind of condition. But my thyroid numbers my antibodies were super high. My testosterone was in the high normal range, which is not what my doctor expected. But we didn't test anything past that. I think it was the basic T whatever test that we had. And once I did some more research after, of course, spending time with Russ, you want to do all the research in the world so you can speak intelligently. I was like, there's a lot of things they missed when I looked at the blood work.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things they didn't test for, didn't really cover.
Well,
so I talked to this doctor today about that.
Good. So here's again, we need to treat the system. Folks, we got to get away from monotherapies. We got to get away from thyroid T4 just for thyroid. We got to get away from antidepressants just for depression or just cholesterol lowering meds for heart disease. There's multiple systems that we have to treat. Most physicians don't have the time. So by Ted doing a little homework with me, he brought in a list. Ted's being treated for thyroid right now. So before I met him, they were treating thyroid in isolation. What I taught Ted is to look at the HPAG axis, everything that's interrelated with thyroid. Do you know that tyrosine, the vitamin or the amino acid, helps T4 convert to the most biologically active thyroid, T3, a vitamin? Now, is your doctor going to tell you that?
No, absolutely not.
So again, everything is interconnected, folks, without me putting you to sleep with a lot of, biology, just to understand that everything is interconnected. Medicine's going to treat certain things in isolation. And what we could always do together is our collective conscience, we could drill down on this together, is find out what's interconnected with thyroid problems, what's interconnected with Hashimoto's. I just uploaded an autoimmune disease video, 4 minutes, which everybody could watch on the Russ Scala YouTube channel that speaks to irritable bowel, all the rheumatoid arthritis, and the other autoimmune diseases that doctors just seem to treat in isolation. These immune diseases arise for a reason. They don't just come out of the blue.
Right. All right, so did we talk about chubby marathon runners?
Oh, no, that's a cortisol thing. Let me go. Okay, folks, so again, I was a triathlete for 20 years, and right around 1996, we started the ketogenic diet because we would go to these marathons and watch people cross the finish line, and they were really heavy. And what happened was, believe it or not, the constant training with elevated cortisol and the high carbohydrate diet was shutting off fat burning when everybody thought they had a carbohydrate load. This was the thinking back then. Carbohydrate load before a race. So here are these people. In Orlando, we got like 5 different marathon groups, okay? So I love the community. They train together, they work out together, they go eat together, but they're banging down way too many carbs. So a lot of people that start the marathon training to lose weight, and they cross the finish line of a 26.2 mile run, and some of them may even be heavier.
Wow.
Then they're going, what's going on? I thought it was calories in, calories out. But folks, that isn't how the body works. And now that information is all changing in real time. And the last thing I want to do is to see a woman that wants to get back in her jeans after a pregnancy to get on the treadmill and start working out 30 hours a week when she doesn't have to. Okay, you got to learn about your physiology. Marathon training, you're not going to burn body fat, and I could show you why. In fact, I've got one on the Russ Scala YouTube channel. I got a chart of a marathon runner gaining weight and what happens physiologically. So again, we got to clean that chalkboard in your head, folks. It's just
totally cleaned in my head.
It's another way to think. It's just another way to think. And the reason I know this is because I made all the mistakes. I was like a triathlete racing all over the country, and I'm like, why am I so fat? Why?
And you didn't feel good, right?
No.
Like, isn't there also? It's also about that too.
I had post-race depression. I would travel long distances. I would have low libido. So anybody that was with me says, I hate it when you race because you can't do anything. That was embarrassing. And then I ended up in a counselor's office because of all that. And I'm thinking, I feel pretty good.
Right.
I'm tan and I'm thin, but nothing else is working.
Nothing else is happening. See, that's the thing. It could look good on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't mean it's all going on good on the inside.
I made all the mistakes, folks.
All right, so Russ Scala YouTube channel, that's where you always want to go for your information. And of course, we have the link. You can go to Russ. I tag Russ every week on the show. You can ask questions in between the shows. And you guys asked a lot of questions today. Thank you. Russ and I will both address them if we didn't already. Any parting words of wisdom for them for this week? I feel much better that I'm not a marathon runner, so we're golden today. I'm feeling great.
Folks, remember, physical, mental, and emotional stress can elevate cortisol levels. And when cortisol goes up, it could lower our feel-good chemicals. It could put fat on us. So understand the stress response to the body and Google the HPAG axis. Boom.
Boom. All right, we love you guys. Thanks so much. We'll be back next week. But reach out to Russ. Seriously, he's available. He's accessible. That's what this show is all about, is bringing somebody who's accessible to you, and then you can reach out to him in between. If you want to reach out to me first, I'll put you in touch with him. But keep asking the questions. Take control of your own health. Personalized medicine, don't forget. All right, we love you guys. See you next week.